And quite honestly, it's the lead you give on the home front that will determine the generations to come. And I'm talking generations. Whether you have one child or many children, your child will be greatly, significantly, completely impacted by the role you provide as a son of God, a loving husband, and a dedicated father. Years ago, I was listening to, I don't know if it was on the radio or a CD or something, and I was completely shocked at hearing a true story that John Lennon's son was an extremely unhappy and very discouraged man who was not willing to begin a family because of the impact his father had on him. And when he was being interviewed by the media, Julian Lennon said of his father, "Mom was more about love than Dad. He sang about it, he spoke about it, but he never really gave it. At least not to me as his son." And I was like, whoa, here is a famous celebrity who had all the means, who was popular, successful, all the money at his disposal to give his son the education, the people, the gizmos, the gadgets, everything that his son would want. And the man dedicated himself to his career and to raising money for third world initiatives and so forth. But he missed the mark. He did not give his son the love the son needed. This is something we all have to reflect on in our own lives, whether we're men or women. Because our society very much puts success in terms of money, prestige, status, achievement. But it doesn't often talk about the most important thing is to be a loving individual, to put the people in our lives first. Matthew Kelly, a prominent Catholic writer and speaker, let me see if I'll remember it correctly, says, we were made to love people and use things. But nowadays, we're conditioned to love things and use people. We have to be very careful we don't get caught up in the culture that's out there right now. We are rushing and running and racing and burnt out trying to achieve, accomplish, and possess to the detriment of having intimacy with our God and with the people God has placed by our side. So my topic is about creating a positive environment on the home front for your children to grow up in. And so I would like to address a couple of key points in that area. The first being your wife, the second being family meals, the third being family traditions, and the fourth being yourself. Not because you're last and least important, but just to finish on the note of you. So first and foremost is the need for you to focus much more on your wife. More than your job. Even for women, when I tell them in the talks I always give them to say, you need to focus more on your husband and his needs more than your children. We all get the theory of it, but when it boils down to the practice, it's like, but all day long I'm so busy with all these other things, how can I find that time and that moment to invest in my marriage? God has called you to a particular specific vocation of marriage. At the altar, you gave your heart completely to your wife, and she in turn gave her heart completely to you. And God entered that covenant and made it a triangle, so that in that relationship of you with your wife, you are to mirror the Trinitarian loving community that God so strongly and purely shows us. And yet oftentimes once we get married, we get a little bit discouraged because we think it's like advanced dating. It's just a step up from dating and it's going to be much more beautiful and exciting and la 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 la. But then we get into the roles that we have to perform. And for a husband, it's very much one of providing, to make sure you have a job, to offer the financial security, to pay the mortgage, to provide the means that your family can have to have a good life. Because you really want to provide well. And you want to protect your children from the evils that are out there in society and make them strong so that they're going to be able to overcome the temptations. And that's very much part of your role. But at the same time, the temptation can become an overwhelming preoccupation with the role of providing and working, that there are only leftovers to give on the home front. It's very important for a man to set good boundaries, to know that they are replaceable in any job they possess, but they are not replaceable as a father. And they must set boundaries on their working life in order that they can tend to the primary needs of their wife and their children. So when it's time to leave work, you leave work. And you try not to bring work home, and you try not to work more hours. There's an amazing book, and I'm so happy to see it out for sale, by Jeff Feldhan. It's called For Men Only. And the question is asked to women. It's a whole book of questions, surveys done with women to see how they feel about their husband and how things could be improved. Excellent book. Highly recommended. If you're not a book reader, my husband isn't, I recommend you get the audio book. My husband and I sat for 6 hours on a trip to New York recently for a getaway and listened to it. I learned a lot. He learned even more. And we've been married 26 years. It was a really amazing listen. And one of the questions asked to women was, your husband is currently in a job where he's working long hours and making great pay and offering you tremendous financial security, but not as emotionally available as a result of this job. If you had some options, what would it be? An overwhelming 70% of the women surveyed said, I wish my husband would take a job with lower pay. I'm ready to make all the financial sacrifices involved if he would be more available for the needs of the family. Women are very different than you. Getting married is truly a vocation because you need those graces from God to learn to understand, accept, love, and cherish the other person the way they made them. And women are completely hardwired differently than men. Completely. Women always are chatting about, I don't get my husband. I don't understand why he's upset. Men are scratching their head and they're not talking to other men because that's not you, but they're just thinking, what's going on? You know? Women crave emotional closeness. Your primary mission, your vocation in life is your marriage. You are all working hard. You have many worries. You have very little time. If you have to focus on one thing, develop more closeness to your wife. She is wired completely emotionally. Her cycle makes her go, woo! And you know that there are times in the month, okay, I'm not going in this room. I'm not opening my mouth. I'm going to zip it shut because she's a witch right now, and I've got to stay away. And then other moments, those rare moments, wow, is she ever nice? Like, she's really one sweet woman. And then there are other times where she's drained and tired, and she's touched out from infants and toddlers who are always grabbing her and touching her. And anyway, she's a very emotional being, and she doesn't have a nothing box. You do. You have in your little head a place where you escape, where you do nothing, where you just tinker on your car or sit and look out the window, and you're in your nothing box, and your wife says, hey, honey, what you doing? Nothing. She says, no, come on, what are you thinking about? Nothing. And she cannot get that. Because women don't have a nothing box. They don't. We cannot relate to you at all. We cannot believe that you can think about nothing. Because we can't. We can't. We wish we could, but we can't. We are very caught up in our life and very emotional. And we're stressed and overwhelmed and burdened by the cares of mothering and the responsibilities that come with it. And we need your emotional closeness, for you to listen to us. We don't need you to solve our problems. We solve our problems by talking. We don't want to go to some other man and say, I'm having problems here and there and wherever. We certainly talk to our girlfriends, but more importantly, we want to talk to you. You're not used to it, and you don't like we talk for hours, and that we don't want to listen to what you have to say to some degree. We just need to unburden and to have your closeness to say, you're doing a great job. I know you're going to get through this. I love you. You're amazing. I can't wait to come home. Work on your marriage. Read that book for men only. There are many others out there. Amazing. Really very constructive, very helpful. Because partnership is more important than parenting. Because your children, from the time they're born, they're watching mommy and daddy. You are their template for what love is about, for what marriage means, for what sacrifice is, for what genuine, authentic love is. Your kids don't need to see a marriage that's a flat tire. There are many marriages like that out there. And that's why kids are very much entertaining the idea of alternative lifestyles, sleeping around, shacking up. Because they see what their parents have, and it's a flat tire. They want something more thrilling. They want to thrive. They want to be alive in love. Well, you have to show that on the home front. You need to up your romance. And it's not the way you want it. You have to study your woman. She's her own person. She's got her own temperament and personality. You have to listen to her. Her words, her body language, her needs, and meet them. Because when you meet her emotional needs, she will be the most awesome mother around. She is willing to sacrifice everything to make sure that family is capable of becoming the image God wants it to be. But when you deny your wife your emotional closeness, she lowers the bar. Because she's upset, she's malnourished, she's resentful, and so she holds back. She needs you. And you take care of your marriage and make it more number one, you will take care of 50% of the parenting that is needed to raise a strong family because of the example you set. You give them goals. And just the fact that your children see that you call your wife, you text your wife, you come home, you give her a big hug, and you hold that hug and say, wow, it's nice to be home. That you tell her what you need. Honey, when I come home, the first thing I need is food. Don't talk to me about the kids yet because I just need food. And you tell her in a nice, kind way. And then you have that meal and you say, oh, so nice to come home to supper and my beautiful family. Because then she thinks, oh, like I've been killing myself to make it to dinner time. I'm so dead kaput and finished. I'm glad somebody appreciates my effort. Express a lot of gratitude. Women are in the battle zone of raising kids. If they're home full time, they're kaput by the time you come home. You're also kaput. So when you are leaving work, and Toronto, my goodness, I feel in many ways sorry for all of you because you have such long commutes and so much traffic and take so much time away from your family. Take time to decompress before you come home. Listen to your most favorite music. Listen to a great audiobook. Eat something, an apple, some almonds or something, to get your blood sugar up so when you walk in the door and it's like nuts, you're not like just dragging and crawling and making your way to the table, that you're up and ready. So that you have time to leave the work behind and get ready for your most important job, of being there for your wife and parenting your kids. Mealtime, crazy time, arsenic hour. We got to all dump our vision of the Walton family. I got married 26 years ago. I came from a very small family. My husband wanted a large family. We had 10 kids, like almost 18 months apart. Very challenging, very crazy. And I always thought, you remember growing up watching the Waltons and the Brady Bunch, and the dinners should be like that. And they've never been. Maybe like once or twice where everybody's sitting around and well-mannered and polite and talking properly and behaving properly and neat and tidy and beautiful and adult, right? Children are immature. They're childish. They're noisy. They're selfish. They're boorish. Like, suppers are hard between nursing the baby and cutting up this kid's stuff and pouring this and telling them to keep their hands to themselves and trying to get rid of the bathroom humor and everything. Like, it's stressful. So family time at the same time is critical at meals, because that's a daily event that I hope you're getting together on as a family. Maybe you can't because of your commute, but you should at least have a family dessert together if your family must eat earlier because you arrive home so late. In the United States, Harvard in the 1980s did a study to determine how language is best taught so that children could develop a more extensive vocabulary, because they were seeing the level of vocabulary was declining in society. So they researched many different areas, playtime, reading, parents reading to their children, and all different aspects of family life to determine what is the most critical moment that language is developed in the family. And the results were astounding. It's at mealtime. It's at mealtime. Because it's a moment that occurs every day where people are with the ones they love most, and there's a natural opportunity to converse. They hear adult language between husband and wife, and all levels of language displayed by their siblings, and the richness and variety of language. Supper time is not the moment for correction. Women, unfortunately, feel it should be. And it shouldn't be. It's the moment of connection. It's the moment of emotional intimacy for the family to come together and share how the day went. And that's hard, because I know myself, for many years, I'd be like, okay, so-and-so, sit still. You, eat with your mouth shut. You, eat your food. Don't get so distracted by so-and-so. And all as we're doing is criticizing and correcting. Those aren't family memories. We have to learn to ignore a lot and to use sign language instead. So in our house, we develop things like keep your mouth closed, sit still, chin over your table, different things so that we would just show them, but not say those words of criticism, but instead be constantly asking questions. Anybody had anything silly happen today? What was the good and bad and ugly of your day? Who can remember something absolutely wild they did when they were little? lately the topic of conversation has been, has anybody ever gone to the principal's office for something? And we have all of a sudden true confessions from our adult children about things we never knew about, right? That's been really funny to listen to. So take advantage of mealtime. The third aspect is family traditions. We're busy. We don't have a lot of time. We would like to do a lot with our family, but time just kind of disappears. So you need to schedule family times regularly. Times for chores, because a family that works together bonds. You shouldn't be doing everything for your kids. 2-year-old can do a lot. 2-year-old can help set a table, clear a table, or pick up some toys. Work with your kids. Regular work. Kitchen chores, house chores, home repair. Invite them to go with you to Home Depot, Rona. Take them with you when you have to go back to the office to pick something up. Make those little traditions that your kids feel they accompany you in the work of the home, and to some degree the work outside the home. Have fun times, scheduled fun times together. A movie night, a games night, Sunday outings, going to church on Sundays together, having a special Sunday meal that has a tablecloth and your special dishes, going for hikes, apple picking, strawberry picking, Christmas traditions. Usually the traditions we want to impose are great, but sometimes weird ones come along that the kids kind of created. And then they say, oh, this event is coming. Last year we did this. We got to do it again. And you're thinking, huh? In their mind, they want to make it a tradition. Think outside the box and do it. I remember the first time I went on a retreat with Opus Dei, my husband decided when I'd come home that he'd play some pranks on me. Well, the kids thought it was totally awesome. I'm not a prankster, and I don't have that sense of humor, and I was like, okay, whatever. But it's become part of our family lore to think of all the crazy things the kids and my husband planned to surprise me when I would come home from my retreat. So now I prepare ladies who drop me off. Okay, be kind of aware, beware. When we enter the house, something strange might happen. This is a part of our family tradition, and the kids get a big yock out of this, and so play along. Don't look horrified, right, at what they plan. So make room for that, because traditions bring joy. They anchor the family. They bring connectedness. It's important. Ask your kids oftentimes at the table. Have your wife ask them, what do you like to do with Daddy? If you had time with Daddy alone this summer, what would you do? Talk to your wife often. Get her point of view. She thinks completely differently than you, and she, over time, will start to listen more to you. It took me a long time to realize my husband knew much more than I did on a lot of things. Women often think they know a lot, and they do, because they're intuitive, they're emotional, they look at things just from a completely different angle. You have your own wealth to bring. So get your wife on board to come up with traditions. My husband and I have the tradition that before all the kids are home, like for Christmas, March break, summer, that we have a getaway. It could be for an evening, it could be a weekend getaway, an overnight getaway, where we replenish ourselves. We have the tradition of a weekly date night, a spring going away time for an overnight or a weekend or even on a business trip. And we often then factor in a discussion on, okay, what do we need the kids to be doing this summer so that on the home front we're all happy campers? He'll give his ideas, I'll give mine. But I'll also go to all my kids and say, if you could do something with Daddy this summer, what would you like to do? I was amazed. I have twins who are 14. On their list was, I want to go fishing with Dad. And I said, you've never gone fishing? And I'm like, where'd this come from? Oh, we just want to go fishing with Dad. And so at the end of the summer, when the summer was done, I said, you better ask everybody if they had their turn with Dad. And the twins said, Dad, I want to go fishing with you. And he goes, okay, for sure, this Saturday. I'm going to get up early in the morning, and we're going to drive to the Kingston Locks, and we're going to go fishing. They caught nothing. It was like the wrong time, the wrong everything. But the girls couldn't care less, because for them it was all about emotional closeness. Every single person in your family wants intimacy with you. They want to laugh with you. They want to talk with you. They just want to be with you. They want you to recognize They exist. They want you to show you're delighted in them. You're proud of them. You like them. You like to waste time with them. You want to play road hockey. You want to play cards with them. You want to do a puzzle with them. Doesn't have to be a long time. It's little snippets. I find my husband, he has a very demanding job, and he comes home very tired. And I remember in the early years where he was putting in 60 hours a week, trying to become a professor who would then eventually get tenure. And it was very much expected and demanded. And he would always make sure he was home for supper. He'd bath the kids and play with the kids like he was a zombie. He'd come home and he would invent games. He would go down to our rec room where we had these old rec couches. He would throw all the cushions on the couch. He would just spread eagle on the couch and pass out because he'd be so tired from work. And he'd call the kids down and say, okay, let's play Soggy Monster. And the kids would just laugh with the delight. They would pick up every cushion, every pillow, every blanket they could find and pile it on top of Dad. And then he would say, okay, I'm ready. Meanwhile, he's just resting, right? Because he's so tired from work. And all the kids would climb on top, right? And they would all just giggle with laughter. And then, at a given moment, he goes, and the Soggy Monster would slowly resurrect himself and toss everyone on the floor. And they would squeal with delight. And then he would just pass out again and do it like for half an hour. And it would be a way he would rest. But those kids, like my 26-year-old, my 24 and 23-year-old, will talk endlessly about, oh, Dad, remember Soggy Monster? Remember all those games? He used to laugh and joke with them. And they have such memories of their dad having fun with them. Your kids need that. Your kids need to see that happen regularly. So it's not about doing big, huge things. You know, it's little things. Little things of intimacy. Showing you're not perfect. Showing you have problems. Showing you're holding God's hand tightly. You know, you're making sacrifices. You don't complain about it. They see you're tired, but you make the effort. You're a living example. You're a living example of character and integrity. You're struggling. You know, it is a struggle for husbands and wives to raise families in these times. We can see all the stats of all the junk that's happening out there and get scared. We shouldn't be, though. We shouldn't be. The National Center for Substance Abuse and Addiction, which resides at Columbia University in the States, constantly does research to determine how to lower the escalating statistics on addiction and abuse that are skyrocketing at all ages. The president of that association was asked, you know, what needs to be done? His answer was, it's the family. Family, family, family. You know, if you take care of your family, to give each person the feeling that they are loved, that they're lovable, and that they are loving individuals, they can slough off all that peer pressure and the temptation because they're solid in their core. We were made by God who is love. Our deepest yearning is love. Only God gives us pure love. But He acts through us. And our wife and our children need it. They need to feel it, to touch it, to hear it daily. My clock is busted here on my watch. I don't know where we are. Are we 5 minutes? Okay. So work at it. So the last thing I wanted to say is take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. When I was a teenager, I heard the acronym JOY. Jesus first, others second, you last. Okay? The most important others are not your boss and your colleagues and your squash partner and your buddies who you go hunting with or whatever. It's your wife and your children. So Jesus first, others second, you last. But you do need to take care of yourself, to set those boundaries, to get a lot of exercise as you get older. I see with my children, actually, In high school, they play a ton of sports. They go off to university, and the sports really decline, and it's hard to get that exercise. They enter the working world, and they're so overwhelmed by the changes of career that exercise kind of like, ooh. And once you get married and you have children, you really top up the areas of stress in your life. Exercise, whether it's walking, running, I don't care what you do, helps to get rid of some of that stress and put you in a more cheerful tone. Eating properly, getting enough sleep, praying. Oh my gosh, praying. I see more and more as my life goes on, and I'm now past 50, that it's so critical to put everything in God's hands. To realize it's not about me being perfect. It's not about me solving all the problems. It's not about me being a perfect parent and a perfect spouse. It's about God and I together tackling life. It's about me holding his hand. Me asking God, what do you want me to do with my wife? She's a basket case right now. Like, we're not in good shape. What's one little thing I could do? You know? To pray about your children. To pray about what's bothering you. Gives you so much more peace to feel like it's not all you having to solve it, but you and God. The last thing I want to say, which someone mentioned to me at our marriage seminar in Kingston recently, he said, you know, if I were to tell you I was going to do a marathon, what would you think? I was like, whoa. He said, if I say I'm trying to do a marathon, I would think, oh, okay, you probably won't follow through if it's your first one. If he would say, I'm training to do a marathon, I would say, whoa, when? How far are you going to run? Are you doing the 25-kilometer run or whatever, right? With the idea that he's going to make it, he's going to achieve that. Well, for each of you and for me, we are not trying to have good families and trying to have a good life, because we might get right off track by distraction. We must train to have a good marriage, to raise good kids. So we need to approach coaches, and we need to approach what we're doing from a different way. It's not about trying, it's about training. We have to learn from the best. The crazy glue that keeps my husband and I together and has helped us to raise an amazing family, we have problems, we're not perfect, we're normal, has been spiritual direction. That we each have someone who's objective to our family, who we're not so emotionally caught up in, but who knows us with transparency to turn to say, okay, I'm going through this moment of doubt. I'm burnt out. I'm suffering. I'm worried. I'm stressed. This is what's happening. Any suggestions? And the person says, you'll make it. God will help you. Focus on this. Okay, you got these problems. Okay, right. But look at this. You're in life to construct yourself to be the best version of yourself, to be a saint. You're in life to bring that capacity out in your children, in your spouse, and in your colleagues. On your own steam, you won't get far. Train yourself. Open up. Women have easy time. Men is a bit harder. But nothing can compare with the strength you can gain from spiritual direction. So think about it. And really go deeper and open yourself. You'll find it will give you a strength that you could never muster on your own. And something that will add to your interior life and your prayer life that will give you an extra dynamism. So with that, I'll conclude because my watch is broken. I don't really know where we are with time. And thank you very much.